But now let's talk about how we would work this in a normal environment with, like we said, we'd have different branches. So if we do git branch again, we can see we're on main. And like I said, we typically don't want to merge directly to main. We want to create our own local branch that we can, we get a work order, we can make changes, and then we'll merge it up to main. We're going to do the command here would be git branch. And the shortcut here is -M and then the name of your branch. So we'll call this my first branch. Press enter. And now if we do git branch again, we're now on this one. So any change we make now is just in the context of my first branch. It's not on main. But we can switch back to main and see what's going on there if we did git checkout main. And if we do git branch again, now we can see both of them, but we're on main. Git checkout my first branch. And here we are. So this is how it's going to work. So you're going to have changes on one, make your development changes, move it to GitHub, and then handle the merging and combining them there as opposed to here locally. You can do it locally, but it's just, that's how your workflow is going to be. So let's go through this process real quick. It's like, let's say I decide to create a new model. We're not going to keep this, but if you create a new model, test.sql, these have to be SQL models. We'll touch on this, but let's say we make this change. We go through here, we could do the git add process here, but while we're here, I'll show you another great thing about Visual Studio Code is built in. We can look at these changes within this source control part as well if you have this set up, and it'll show you the differences. In this case, there's nothing to the file, and we can press the plus sign here to stage it. That's the equivalent of git add is what we just did. And then to do the equivalent of git commit, we could just write our message here and we'll say test file add, something like that. And by pressing the check mark here, that is committing with that message. And so we have it here, but we still need to go through the process of pushing it. So we'll do a git push origin head. And we can see it pushed it to a new branch, my first branch. So let's go back to GitHub and we could see it in real time. It said my first branch has a recent push, and we could compare and pull, and we could see it's just this one file, and we can go back to GitHub and flip between these branches. Now it will recognize it. And this one will have this new file. Whereas if we go to main, it doesn't. Real quick intro to how GitHub works. That's the workflow we would typically work with if you had a team. In this training, it's just us, but that's how it would work in a real project. So we can go to all branches and we can delete this branch by just doing a delete here. I'll check out main locally again, and it'll still show my first branch. So to get rid of it locally, if you don't want it here, you could do git branch -d and then my first branch, and it'll delete it. And lastly here, once, let's say some other people are making changes and you want to get it locally on yours, people are doing all this stuff and you don't have it. The way you would do that is git pull, and it would pull it down for you. But what we need to do here is we need to run one of these commands before we do it. Let's do this here. We'll copy, paste. Now if we do git pull again, it's just going to say up to date, no problem. And we're ready to keep moving forward. And we can move on from git now and start to move into some of the other work.